Union Avenue is one of the most busy thoroughfares in Memphis, and it's a street with split personality. It's a main artery connecting Memphis's west side, downtown along the Mississippi, to the city's east side at Walnut Grove and Poplar. Traveling along the road creates a sense of cultural confusion. On one corner you'll find beautiful churches and early 19th century mansions. Then across the street, you're confronted with strip malls and chains of fast food restaurants for miles. At the same time, it's host to a number of Memphis's most historic landmarks.
Two of our most iconic buildings are on Union Avenue. The Peabody Hotel, the South Grand Hotel, which is really the front door and the living room of downtown Memphis. And right down the street at 706 Union Avenue, the legendary Sun Studio, where rock and roll began, where Elvis Presley recorded his first song that really kind of set fire to a music revolution that put Memphis on the map culturally all over the world.
The Peabody Hotel was first built in 1869 on Main Street, but they moved to the Union Avenue location in 1923. It was 10 years after that, in 1933, the legendary Peabody Ducks made their first march to the fountain. I sat down with Shelby County historian and Duckmaster Jimmy Ogle to get a better understanding of how Union became the schizo street that we drive today.
During that 100 years or so, the transition of the city, you think when the western part of Union Avenue, say from Front Street, from down to where Riverside Drive is, Riverside Drive didn't come until 1935, so when our city was laid out in 1819, it kind of stopped right there at the cobblestones. And then our city expanded out to about where the medical center is, right before the Civil War. And then we expanded southward down the riverfront and then couldn't go to the west because of the floodplain. So after the Civil War, after we get through the yellow fever epidemic, we weren't touched by the Civil War, no land battles here, so we're a fast-growing city. From 1900 to 1910, less than 10% of the people that lived in Memphis were actually born in Memphis, so we're a fast-growing city, growing to the east, not to the west, and annexing quickly too. So we annexed all the way out to almost where Cooper is now, quadrupling the size of our city. Then right after the 1900, we have 102,000 people in Memphis, the greatest day of Jubilee in Memphis history, to get over 100,000 people. But in 1904, we had 8 automobiles in Memphis and the speed limit was 8 miles an hour. By 1910, 1,000. By 1913, 6,000. By 1920, 19,000. You see the trend here. By 1930, 52,000. We became an automobile world, and that's what transformed that area of Union Avenue, was the changing world. It became an automobile society. So right there, right past the Midtown Interstate, where the Commercial Appeal is, and Sun Studio, the Edge District they call it, that was our first automobile road. You see, in the 1930s and 40s, before it moved out to Summer Avenue, then to Perkins and Mount Moriah, and then over to Covenant Pike and Wolf Chase, you see. So that whole area was automobile row in there, a lot of mechanic shops, everything based on automobiles. And that's where you started taking a 2-lane street to make it a 4-lane street, to making it a 6-lane street, to make it an arterial highway all the way out to the parkways. But that was kind of our outer limit there as far as the eastern boundary. So you started building suburbs, Central Gardens, Valentine Evergreen, all these historic suburbs we have now. I think Ansdale Park's subdivision over there in the southern part.
During the early 20th century, as the city annexed to the east, Union Ave became a mixture of residential and commercial. It was the main suburb for wealthy businessmen who worked downtown, and the mechanic shops where their cars were fixed up. But as the city continued to build further east, the Depression hit. Banks foreclosed on many of the Union Avenue mansions. And that's when the commercial creep began, slowly converting the street into the highway we see today.
And it's interesting how Union used to be residential, and then you don't get residences until you get out towards Walnut Grove. That's when it starts, and up until that point, it's just strip malls. And then once you kind of, if you're heading west, you get into, you know, Sun Studio, and that's a really big spot, and it kind of splits off onto Marshall, and there's a bunch of cool stuff over there, and then the Peabody's right on it. So it really is kind of a center point of the city as far as non-highway, you know, within the city landmarks.
The automobile made Union what it is today, but did the street lose something because of it? Midtown's known for its chill culture. Union doesn't have any of that. And it seems like it's because Union's not bike friendly, like at all, while other streets in Midtown, like Cooper, Madison, Jefferson, they all have bike lanes. It seems to slow down the area and the people who make up the area. Could Union Avenue even support bike lanes?
I could possibly see that. You know, the challenge we have with those two streets versus Madison and others is it is a very heavily traffic corridor for, you know, for people coming into downtown and into Midtown, and of course going the other direction. So might be a little bit of a challenge, but you know, there's such a focus on, you know, I think we're up to 130 miles of bike lanes and trails throughout Shelby County now, and we are becoming such a much more cycling friendly city. Of course, we're about to start the bike share program, which is only going to fuel that fire even more. And so, you know, we'll see what happens. I mean, we've seen a lot of evolutions of Union over the years.